Welcome to Marvel and Mysteries. My name is Tracy, and thank you so much for joining me for this episode. And we are talking about music. I believe this is going to be the first one in a series about music. I just have to see where the Lord is going to take everything. And I want to kind of walk you through the events of just to hear like a week or so ago of kind of what happened that set me on this course, because I was asking the Lord, okay, what would you like to talk about next? And this is kind of what happened. So I thought I would share my processing, because I bet many of you have experienced something very similar and just thought, what in the world is that? Or perhaps you simply thought you had an earworm, but is it more than that? So what happened to me is I was on, I think, YouTube or something. And there was a video that kind of popped up, and it was sort of like a musical version of karaoke, where instead of somebody singing a song, and karaoke means empty orchestra, so I get all of that, but it was the idea that a musician who has never heard the piece before sits down to play along with it, kind of improv with it. And when I heard the song, I knew it, and it was a long time ago that the song came out. It was something in the middle 2000s, I think. And it was very interesting, because as soon as I heard it, it was like I could feel this piece of music yank my soul. And I felt like I got yanked down to this deep, dark place. And this band in particular is kind of a little bit heavy, alternative, grungy, emo, kind of all of those things. Just think lovelorn, tortured artist, and you probably have an idea of the feel. And this particular song is one of their hits, and it really pulls on you as soon, at least for me, I'm very sensitive to music and frequencies and things. So I felt that immediately, and I felt that pull. And I just kind of thought, it's just odd that I was able to feel that much, almost like of a lowering within myself of how I felt, 1 second to the other. And then for about 1 week, every night, multiple times, I would wake up and I would hear just different declarations that are being made in this song over and over and over again. And it felt like I was fighting against this thing for the better course of an entire week. And so I thought, for this song, there's some kind of an old hook that was placed in me a long time ago when I heard it initially. And if I think back to that time in my life, it was difficult, it was emotional, and I'm certain that that thing just hooked its teeth right in me and probably never came out. So I prayed, and I was repenting and just saying, hey, Lord, there were a lot of things that I listened to when I didn't know any better, and now I do. And so I repent of having opened up my gates basically to this song. And the song kind of made its entrance. And when we listen to music or when we're reading something, we're really consuming something, and we oftentimes don't realize that there can be some very real consequences to that when we're just thinking, oh, it's just music, or oh, it's just a book, when it's really an entrance into something. It's an entrance into another realm or dimension, and it can be an entrance of something into you. So we must be careful of those things that we take in. But this got even a little bit more strange for me when I thought to Google this band, because I honestly hadn't thought about it in years or thought about the people. And I Googled the lead singer, and it turned out that he had recently come up on a lot of allegations from, I think, at least 9 women, who some of who were minors at the time, of some serious sexual misconduct. And this has just kind of all recently come to the surface this year. So I thought that was like a little telling. So I kind of prayed like, okay, well, Lord, save these people, save this guy. And then I saw about a week after that the song was oddly released on my 30th birthday. Now that's just one of those other random details and things that make you go, that I just thought, okay, there's just something on this. Let me kind of keep running through this a little bit more. And I thought, okay, God, let's think about some of the things that you've said to us in scripture about music, about our intentions, about our mouths and the words that we speak. And I was thinking primarily of Ephesians 5, and this is 18 through 21. And I think that this is really key for what we are taking in and what we are really considering. And so here's the admonition that's given, Ephesians 5, 18 through 21. And do not get drunk with wine, for that is debauchery, but be filled with the Spirit, addressing one another in psalms and hymns and spiritual songs, singing and making melody to the Lord with your heart, giving thanks always and for everything to God the Father in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, submitting to one another out of reverence for Christ. So that is a very specific kind of heart posture that we are to be talking to one another, and it's more than fellowship, to be singing to one another, to be blessing one another with those things that the Lord would say, and just making merry in our hearts unto Him, and then surrounding ourselves with that. And that's a very powerful thing. And if you have ever received some kind of ministry from someone who is singing over you, it is so powerful. And even now, just talking about it, I can feel every fiber of my being lift up, because music is something so powerful because it activates every part of our brain. It's like there isn't a part that is untouched by it in one way, shape, or form. There might be certain areas that are more active, but there are other areas that might be a little bit more silent depending on the music that is played. But the way that our ears work with our brain and what music does to our whole body is just a mystery in and of itself. And it's a very powerful one. And there are those that have kind of reverse engineered and figured a lot of it out to use it. And that usefulness can be a good thing. It can be used to surprise folks. And there's certain music that is designed and written to bring a level of surprise. And of course, if you've watched scary movies, then the music is very specifically used to bring about the anticipation of something that's going to happen. Usually something that's not that great or horrible or gory or something, but because there's that sort of a programming to the music that it's already working. It's done a mind bypass, and it's gone directly into basically your heart, your senses, your feeling. And so it's very powerful, and there's a lot of information that can be snuck right past our subconscious, so to speak, and it'll just go in and make entry in there. So yes, music is powerful, and we need to also be responsible with what we are taking in. And so I love Ephesians 5 because of it saying that we are to be addressing one another in psalms and hymns and spiritual songs and making melody in our hearts. So think about the power of your heart. And there was another, I don't remember if it was a blog that I was writing about that had to do with the science of the heart and what the heart puts off. So when you are full of the music itself, and you are full of the Lord, and that is what you are releasing, there's cleansing, there's uplifting, there's so much that happens. And of course, when these things are on the dark side of things, there's also a ministry that is happening, and it may not be a good one. But I wanted to bring some of this up and just kind of get into this a little bit of a series, because there's so much to it. And I thought of the actual meaning of the word music. Okay, so I'm just going to grab from etymology online. Okay, our usual definition: a pleasing succession of sounds or combination of sounds the science of combining sounds in rhythmic, melodic, and later harmonic order. So, this is usually what we would think of when we're thinking of music, a wonderful expression, an arrangement of tones and sounds and things like that, instruments, voices, all of it. But when you dig a little bit deeper into music, it's coming from a word in Greek. It's the art of the muses or the art of the muse. And we've heard of this over time in school. We're taught about, the poets, the great poets and writers. They all had a muse, or there would be the imagery of a woman that a composer just was longing for. And so like that individual would be their muse. They would be writing everything as unto them. Basically a way of saying, this is who inspired me. But the muses in Greek mythology, and it's funny because we call it mythology, but like they're real. So let's just get with the program already and realize that these things are functioning deities, and that's what they are. And so it's easy to just go, oh, it's mythology. Oh, it's make believe. Oh, they don't exist. But these things do exist. These entities do exist in different functions in the kingdom they're operating for. So we have to remember that and not be unwise, but wake up and understand what is happening all around us and the invisible war that goes on around us all the time. So in the Greek, in Greek mythology, there were 9 muses, and these deities, it was the daughters of Zeus and a name I can't even pronounce, but they were responsible for like an administration of creativity, so to speak, whether it's poetry, music, dance, and different kinds of writing, history. They were responsible for that. And you'll see in certain publications from that time, like the Iliad, for an example, that there's an actual invocation that's done at the beginning to these deities to basically bring the inspiration, guide what is coming forth. So this is where the word music comes from. And the same root word is the one for the modern term museum. This is where you go because this is where the muses are. And you'll see in museums kind of those same categories. You're looking at history. You would be looking at, I'm going to use the word hymn, but like music or worship unto different kinds of gods, comedy, kind of acting, like all of these different themes are what come up in that, and music is one of them. And there's a dedication that folks make whenever you are creating something as a human being. Just being human, there's a certain authority that you have because you have the opportunity to be an imager of God. You are an imager of God. And whether you actually take that next step and have relationship with him and agree to just be adopted already, that's up to you because he gives you free will. You have the choice to choose him or not. That's up to you whether you do. So when we're in the world and we're listening to the music that has been coming from various people, you have to keep in mind what spirit is that person of. Do they love the Lord, or are they off loving some other deity? Like who are they after? What spirit are they resonating from? And the word says that those that are with the Lord, if they're in the Lord, they're one spirit with him. So you have your human spirit connected to his spirit. And it's from that place that you bring things forth. You bring your creation forth, especially if it's a musical piece. Whereas others, depending on who they are in league with or whoever they're serving, you're going to get that administration coming through that music. And the music is going to bypass really your subconscious in a way that it almost doesn't matter what the lyrics are, whether you can hear them or not, or decipher them or not, because you're still receiving that. You're still getting that. And you might not even know what they're saying. And so there's a lot, when you go back and look through your playlist, there are plenty of songs that they sound great. They might even have like a nice little beboppy kind of tune to them. But then if you listen to what they're singing about, you realize what's really being said. And then you really go, oh my gosh, this is a huge wake up call. I was at an event in the last few months, and I was shocked because there was one particular song that came on, and everybody was celebrating and having a wonderful time. But I just was amazed that there were basically kids that were probably, we'll say 12, 13 maybe, all the way up to 70 something, 80 somethings that were all singing the song. And I was shocked that they even knew the words because they are so horrible and gross and disgusting. It's like, I just couldn't believe it. And it didn't matter. It was like the little ones all the way to the adults, and the grandmas and the grandpas are walking around this event, and I'm watching them mouth the words and thinking just in horror, oh my gosh, imagine what is making entrance. Imagine what's dancing with these people right now, based on what all of them are saying and they're coming into agreement with, and our words have power. And so a lot of the folks too, there's probably like 50% there that really know and love the Lord, and some others that didn't. And I'm thinking, oh, we have to be mindful of what we are allowing in and what is coming out of our mouths. And I'm not saying be religious or whatever, anything like that, and be dealing with rules and in that kind of legalistic kind of way. But we cannot be saying some of the things that we are saying and singing and expect some amazing fruit to come out of our lives, because we are sowing death into everything with what we are saying, and certainly what we are listening to and what we are singing. It's like, what in the world are you resonating with? So I thought I would just bring that up about the muses, because here they are, they're responsible for these things in that world. But my goodness, we need to be taking our inspiration from the Lord and focusing on what is true and noble and good and right and praiseworthy. And this doesn't mean that we are simply listening to songs that just are, in a major tone and are just only praise songs or something like that. There are songs throughout the Bible for war, for remembrance. There are prophetic ones that are making declarations. You have the walls of Jericho coming down because the people were fully engaged with their bodies, their souls, and their spirits, going around that city until it was time to blow some trumpets and start shouting and destroying what the kingdom of darkness had done in the area, Jericho. So it's not about, it's got to be all yay, yay. That's not what it's about. It is about intention. It's about the spirit behind it. And we have to pay attention, especially in this day and age when everything is about frequencies and everything that is bombarding us from the fallen angel technology, and basically the giant web that is created of all of the waves that are hitting us day in and day out. We can all be mapped out quite simply. It's very easy. So what is that all doing to us too as humans? What is that doing to our bodies? So we have to consider this. We have to consider, what are we listening to? What are we resonating with? Are we making this music and hymns and spiritual songs in our hearts to ourselves, to God, to one another? Or are we simply being bombarded and covered up with the worst of the worst of the worst? So if you have that sense when you wake up in the morning and you're feeling dread already and you haven't even gotten out of bed yet, put on some kind of music that is of a higher, it'll bring you up. There are certain artists I can think of. One of them is Alberto and Kimberly Rivera. Many of you may have heard of them. Some of you might be the first time you've heard their names, but they have both prophetic music where Kimberly is singing and prophesying over people. And then they also have more of the instrumental, and that will help to break that kind of that feeling of dread right out of the gate in the morning. And the truth is that the Lord sings songs of deliverance over us. And it is my opinion that when we are really making progress in the Lord, that the enemy of our souls will come at us from the exact opposite. He'll invert that thing, and you'll wake up and you'll hear some of the worst songs you've ever heard that are being bombarded and projected at you intentionally to bring you down. So it's a weapon. Music is a weapon. Use it wisely. But I hope that you just enjoyed kind of a little bit of the chitty chat about this today. And I'll just keep you posted on the next bits in the series as the Lord continues to develop this out, so I can see some more things that He's doing through it and how we can properly administrate music ourselves. In our own homes, and then also outside of the church, outside the four walls, as we are interfacing with others in our lives. So thank you so much for watching. God bless you, and we'll see you next time.